What's going on, guys? Bubba G here. I'm coming to you with a football review video after week one. I still have Monday football later on tonight to watch, but that's fine. So let's start with the highlights. First things first, New York Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins got arrested outside of Hard Rock Stadium on his way to the locker room to get ready for the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And my friend and I actually kind of poked fun at it. We weren't like making it too serious, but we kind of like poked fun at the fact that, that maybe the Jaguars, probably like called the cops to get Tyreek arrested because they were trying to get rid of Hill to avoid having to defend that dynamic duo of speedsters. He got arrested. The Giants, on the other hand, they are still the Giants. Daniel Jones is terrible. I'm not being mean to him like a lot of other people are, but they do have reasons why. The dude has been in the league 6 years now, and he has not once progressed. Except for that minor thing when he played okay when they went to the playoffs and beat the Vikings in the wild card. When they had Saquon. This year is a whole other thing. Because in the offseason, they couldn't afford to pay Saquon Barkley because most of that money they had was given to Daniel Jones. So they were trying to see if they can make a new deal with him, but with his talents, he could easily get an offer somewhere else, and he did. Like the Giants, as much as I'm a Giants fan, but I'm also a Chiefs fan. The Giants, they messed him up big time. He had no help whatsoever. They've tried drafting receivers to try to help get attention away from Saquon. They attempted on trading for Darren Waller too to get attention away from Saquon. That failed. Darren Waller retired. Right now, you drafted a young tight end that needs to develop. You have a young receiving core that, if you had the right quarterback, could potentially get better, and you might potentially have maybe a top 10 receiving core if you played your cards right. But you don't. Daniel Jones is still not throwing correctly. In yesterday's game, I live in San Antonio, so I didn't really get to look at the game, but I did see the highlights. He was running for his life half of the time, and believe it or not, Minnesota was not really pressing that much. They were playing like two-man zone or something like that. He cannot read a play correctly. Again, I'm not saying I'm making fun of him, but at the same time, I kind of realize the situation that he's in. Like, yeah, it's the same situation when he first started. Like, because you gotta remember, Giants were dealing with an offensive line issue even before Daniel Jones showed up. Toward the end of Eli Manning's career with the Giants ownership decided to stop trying to build an offensive line to protect Eli, because they wanted to focus on the future now, and they didn't care about protecting Eli Manning anymore. So they grabbed some like third or fourth best guy on like offensive lines from across the league to make an offensive line there, and it didn't help. The offensive line thing was starting to get worse as soon as Saquon got into town. But you also had Odell Beckham Jr. still there, and you had a dynamic receiver back duo there that you could have kept. But you didn't. You traded OBJ to the Browns, and he kept getting hurt. And now OBJ is with the Dolphins, and he's not really looked at the same anymore because of all his injuries and his age. The Giants, however, they need to think about something fast. So the thing is, what do you want to do right now? Do you want to try to win some games this year, Or what? Because right now the only road I can see is you have no choice but to tank, and then basically enter your hat to get a quarterback next year. And next year you do have some options at quarterback. You have Quentin Ewers from Texas that you could look at. You also have Sanders that you could also look at. It depends who's going to want to trade with the Giants to move up too. I honestly thought the Cowboys were going to be. They kept saying they want him, but the Cowboys are just going to win too much, and they're going to be completely out of the race to get a quarterback. There's going to be more quarterbacks in the draft. I think the quarterback from Oregon might be in there. I for sure know the running back from Boise State is going to be in there. He's going to be like one of the top 3 backs in the college draft next year. So the Giants need to fix things at least a little bit to at least win at least a couple of games or two. Because right now, by the looks of it, they might be brawling with the Panthers potentially for one of the top 2 picks because the Panthers got their ass beat too. Except the main difference is they got their ass whooped in New Orleans. The Giants got beat pretty much at their place in MetLife. And yeah, normally a loss is a loss, but the problem is this game was celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Giants organization being a thing. And you had all these icons from the Giants past that basically are the foundation of this organization. Basically witness the Giants still be the Giants to the day. Yeah, you could pin the loss to Daniel Jones, obviously, because he wasn't throwing the football correctly, and even when he does, it was toward the backfield, and it was like a tackle for loss or something. The offensive line still wasn't protecting shit. The defense definitely wasn't helping either. The trio of Burns, Lawrence, and Thibodeau, they didn't help. They were all quiet today. The secondary of the Giants is obviously a big, massive question mark because the last 2 seasons, you lost a good chunk of your secondary. You lost Love, I believe, to... Who did he go to? What was it, Green Bay? Or something like that? He went somewhere. And then you lost McKinney in the secondary. You lost your safety to Green Bay also. And now he is in the secondary with Josh Alexander. He's in the backfield with Alexander and a bunch of other guys. He basically went to a defense that's twice as good than the Giants. So the Giants need to fix things because let's just say even if they do draft Sanders or Ewers next year, right? It's still not going to make things better because you'd be bringing them more than likely into the same situation you did with Daniel Jones, which is you're making them inherit the situations of the previous quarterback, which was a really bad offensive line. So if you are going to be drafting one of these QBs, as a Giants fan, I hope you learn your lesson with Daniel Jones if you do decide to take the cap hit if you let him go or trade him to let some other team have him as a backup and they pay part of his salary while you still pay part of it. Because obviously I think you have to draft either one of the 2, Sanders or Ewers. Potentially also use maybe like another first round pick if you have one to get an offensive lineman. Try to sign a couple over the offseason like you've been desperately trying to. Because as of right now, the only solid lineman you have there is Thomas. You drafted Neal, but he became a bust, and now he's on the bench as a backup. So, yeah, the Giants have some work. So they're going to have to decide, do you at least want to try to be decent enough to at least win maybe like 4 or 5, maybe 6 games this year? Because as of right now, the trajectory, because of that loss, you're looking at maybe already the first overall pick of next year's draft would be the Giants. So they refused to go for a guy last year, and you had the opportunity to go for Bo Nix, which didn't help at all. I understand why you grabbed Neighbors, and that's because you're still trying to build a receiving core that you can be proud of for the future. You have Hyatt, you have Robinson, you still have Slayton, and now you have Neighbors there. So outside of Slayton, you have a young receiver trio that you could develop, and now it's about adding to the secondary to try to beef that up, as well as beefing the offensive line to be better. If you do get Ewers or Sanders next year, you have to have a plan set. So we're gonna have to see what happens with that. So I just hope they figure things out. Otherwise, you can because if Daniel Jones does not at least play okay-ish, if the Giants try seeking a trade partner for Daniel to be a backup somewhere, he's not. You could just forget it. He's not gonna get attention from anyone because he's not playing well. So he needs to at least play well enough to at least get attention, to at least keep a job in the National Football League, which is at least being a backup. It's something. Not a starter, but it's something. At least it means he can at least try to get his skills back in order. Because otherwise, he's going to be gone from the National Football League, and I seriously doubt even the Spring League will want him. Any teams in there. So, I don't think he'll be going to the UFL or anything, or I seriously doubt even the Canadian Football League would want him, especially if they see his highlights. No team's going to want someone that can't even throw the football accurately or at all. So, if this season Daniel doesn't, prove that he deserved that money to begin with, or at least shows that he is good enough to be a backup somewhere, this might be potentially his last year in the league, maybe, if the Giants cut him. So, and his career in football in general might be over, and all that stuff. Alright, peace out.